Hello, welcome back to our YouTube channel today. I'm thrilled to take you on a drama thriller movie from 2016 called Standoff. Spoilers ahead, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. It's a gloomy day in the rural frontier, and a couple named Carter and Mara are making up after a heated argument. Their happy son is holding a red balloon, his laughter filling the air as he plays with their loyal family dog on the front lawn. As Carter enjoys a sip of beer, his son trips over a metal scrap. Mara becomes concerned and reminds her husband to clean up the field, but he appears to be quite relaxed about it. The opening scene comes to an end with the release of the red balloon, and the next thing we see is the little boy's grave. Next, we encounter a charming little girl named Isabel around the same cemetery. She's often referred to as Bird, a nickname she dislikes. Isabel carries her late parents' camera, which she uses to calm herself and hide her emotions. In order to pay respect to her parents, she's taken to the cemetery by her guardian Roger, her aunt's boyfriend. As the kid spends some time with his parents, she notices a funeral taking place nearby in the cemetery. The only people present are a middle-aged woman, her bodyguard, and the funeral chaplain. Suddenly, the peaceful scene shatters as the priest is shot and collapses to his knees. The woman is left shell-shocked on the spot, and before her bodyguard can react, he meets the same fate. From the woods emerges a tall, frightening hitman dressed in a black overcoat and wearing a mask. How can this guy see stuff, I wonder? Isabel is now an unwilling witness to a brutal murder spree. The hitman removes his mask and casually reveals that he's simply on a contract before taking the woman's life as well. Overwhelmed by fear, Isabel manages to capture the killer's face as he buries the victims in murder weapons. The little girl desperately chases after Roger, only to discover he's no longer there. On his way to find Isabel, Roger reaches the murder scene and keeps shouting her name, which catches the hitman's attention. Isabel arrives in time to warn her guardian, but she's unable to save him. Among Isabel's terrified screams, the hitman's gaze is drawn to the camera around her neck. Given this turn of events, he feels compelled to assassinate Isabel as well, paying no mind that she's just an innocent, lonely kid. Terrified and in need of help, Isabel finds her way to Carter's house, a troubled veteran who was mentioned earlier. He's consumed by self-blame after the loss of his son, thinking that if he had cleaned up the field that day, his child would still be breathing. He's nearly finished writing a depressing letter to his estranged wife when he hears Isabel's desperate pleas and rushes to open the door. Carter approaches her for help. However, before he can ask any questions, the hitman shoots him in the leg. He wastes no time and hustles the girl into the safety of his house, quickly picks up 2 bullets and heads straight up the stairs. As soon as the hitman kicks the door open, Carter fires in a split second, hitting his target square in the gut. Carter and Isabel are up on the top floor. Carter's foot's bleeding, and the hitman's gut's gotten a buckshot too. The hitman's stuck behind cover, trying to pop shots from behind the stairs but not hitting anything. When Carter recognizes the hitman's weapon, the latter understands that he's not dealing with a regular Joe. Meanwhile, the hitman checks out Carter's bullet, noticing he's got a 20-gauge shotgun with a short range. Here, the movie escalates into a heart-pounding battle of wits between Carter and the killer. They both try to gain the upper hand during this conflict, but neither one backs down. When Carter threatens to call the cops, the hitman discovers that the phone's dead, proving that Carter was just bluffing. Undeterred, Carter claims he's got a cell phone, but unfortunately, the hitman finds it downstairs. As a matter of fact, the hitman's only plan is to make Carter send Isabel downstairs since she has seen his face. He tries all sorts of tricks to persuade Carter, throwing threats, making promises to spare him since he hasn't yet seen his face, and playing the time card due to the fact that Carter's bleeding. But despite all the hurdles, Carter chooses to take care of the kid. Carter wastes no time in asking Isabel for help, telling her to get the first aid kit, some light bulbs, and a towel. Once both sides patch themselves up a bit, Carter wraps the light bulbs in the towel, smashes them real good, and scatters the shattered pieces on the stairs. That way, the fragments will make noise and alert them. If the hitman tries to creep up, Carter's in a serious tight spot. He's got just 1 bullet left and things are looking sketchy. The good news is that the hitman has no clue about that. They're trapped with no way out except by jumping out of the window. However, that choice is not possible because Carter has a messed up leg. Meanwhile, Isabel opens up about her past and how she lost her parents in a terrible accident. And that hits Carter hard as it brings back memories of the day he lost his own son. Holding the camera her parents left her, Isabel suddenly remembers snapping a picture of the hitman's face with it. Carter quickly asks for the film, which he wraps tightly in a plastic bag and tells Bird to hide it in the water tank behind the toilet. The hitman, on the other hand, is trying to piece things together and learn more about Carter by rummaging through his packed boxes. He comes across a family photo frame and tries to tease Carter with his comments. Turns out that Carter used to be in the military, so the hitman claims to be a vet himself and even has a daughter who's about the same age as Isabel. When he can't get anything out of Carter using identification, he begins threatening his family. But Carter doesn't even bat an eye because he has no family to lose. The psychological duel between them reaches its climax when the hitman threatens to set the whole house on fire. That's when Carter drops the bombshell, telling him he's got the film containing his captured face sealed up in a Ziploc bag underwater. So even if the house burns down, it will not help the hitman because the cops will definitely find the film. And that really ticks the hitman off. Close by, a fresh-faced police officer is out on patrol. He's on the radio with the operator when he notices two parked cars. Even so, he doesn't alert the support team and carries on his patrol to the graveyard, where he discovers the unfinished funeral and suspects something's wrong. Back at Carter's house, the hitman finds the letter that had slipped out of Carter's pocket, while both he and Carter are under the influence. He begins reading it aloud in a mocking tone. It's a letter of apology from Carter to his wife Mara, in which he expresses his deep sorrow and guilt over their child's death. As the hitman cracks up like a maniac, Carter's traumatic memories come flooding back. He remembers the scene in which the boulder he was supposed to clear from the field caused the death of his kid, leaving him mentally defeated by his unwelcome guest. As the killer continues to read, he realizes that the letter is more like a suicide note, and Carter was about to take his own life before Isabel came through with her desperate pleas. But Carter now has a strong reason to keep on. He couldn't take care of his own child and probably now feels paternal instincts toward Isabel. He makes a solid promise to keep her safe from that psycho killer. While they're all hugging it out, the killer busts off two shots out of nowhere just to keep them on their toes. Just as Roger's body is about to be discovered, the young officer hears the gunshots and immediately starts running toward the source. After spotting the house, he gets back in his car and begins driving back to the same spot without any call for backup. At the same time, the lights in Carter's house start to flicker, indicating that he had put off filling the generator with fuel. He's concerned about it because if the night falls and the lights go out, it will be nearly impossible to stop the killer. Suddenly, he thinks of the plan he knew was a bad idea before. Isabel should jump out of the window without Carter. She initially freaks out and disagrees, but somehow Carter manages to talk her into it, so he helps her sneak out of the house through the window. Once Isabel reaches the roof, the police officer shows up. The killer hears the car and notices his presence. He puts on his mask, ready to shoot when the officer knocks. The moment that knock comes, the hitman fires a single bullet, knocking the cop straight to the ground. No idea what's going on, Isabel jumps on a crate that makes a loud noise. She meets the hitman's gaze, but she bounces back up before he can shoot her. The man starts chasing after her to finish the job, but fortunately for her, the gun is empty, and she's able to get back inside the house. The hitman then approaches the wounded cop who's attempting to grab his gun and gives the guy a solid gun hit to the head, completely knocking him out. Once the hitman parks the car in the garage, Carter runs to the balcony and catches him off guard. He tells the hitman to leave his property with his gun drawn, threatening to shoot him if he doesn't. However, the killer is well aware of Carter's gun's limited range. He also knows that if Carter truly had plenty of bullets like he claims, he wouldn't hesitate about popping one even from a distance. That's why he doesn't fall for his bluff, turning the tables and pointing his gun at Carter too, which makes him run back into the house real quick. The hitman then ties the officer to a chair and begins hammering his fingers one by one. While the cop is screaming his lungs out, the killer demands that Carter hand over the girl and the film, or else the cop will be killed. Even so, Carter refuses to give up the girl. He calls the killer a sick person who's just looking for an excuse to kill. Therefore, the killer calmly takes the cop's life and sends his body to Carter to show him the outcome. A few minutes go by, and Carter doesn't hear any noise from downstairs. As a result, he tries to manipulate the hitman by admitting defeat and promising to send Isabel downstairs. But he gets no response, leading him to conclude that the hitman is not on the lower floor. He makes the decision to check downstairs as he tells Isabel, who is in a panic, to lock herself in the bathroom. He carefully descends the stairs while stepping on glass shards, finding nothing but the killer's boots. Carter begins to investigate the situation and finds out that the hitman pulled a sneaky move. He used a ladder to get upstairs and went barefoot to avoid making any noise. Clutching her camera in fear, Isabel hears footsteps and calls out to Carter to ensure it's him. The hitman turns to head in her direction, but Carter unexpectedly shows up, knocks him off balance, and sends him tumbling down the glass shard-covered stairs. Now the killer's got a lacerated foot and Carter's straight up roasting him. Even though he doesn't have the film, the whole situation makes him think about setting fire to the house. But just as he's about to do it, a thought enters his mind and he freezes, staring at Carter's cell phone. As the night sets in, Carter and the hitman start chatting once more. Carter asks the latter how he came to be such a monster and how he's able to commit such horrible crimes. The hitman admits that taking lives was difficult for him at first, but it became easier as time passed. He makes it clear that he doesn't kill for pleasure. His only motivations for killing are the need for money and necessity. Wrapping up his explanation, he drops a quote that has all the answers that Carter is looking for. Later, a car pulls up to the house, casting a devil-red color on the hitman's face, as if Satan himself had just woken up. He opens the door while holding his handgun and wearing his mask. Soon after, he shouts Carter's name, informing him that a friend is willing to meet him. Curious about who's downstairs, Carter hears his wife Mara's trembling voice, and his curiosity instantly turns into full-blown rage. In this twist, we find out that the hitman pretended to be a friend when he called Mara on Carter's phone, tricking her into thinking he was sick and desperately in need of her. With that said, the hitman begins the countdown. Mara's life is in danger unless Carter sends Isabel down with the film. After giving it some thought, Carter grabs the terrified little girl who is crying out for her life. In an unexpected move, he gives her his gun, instructing her to shoot the killer if he tries to come up. After pulling out a knife, Carter then decides to go down on his own. Carter bravely approaches the hitman and tells him that if he's looking for the girl, she's waiting for him upstairs armed with a shotgun. Instead, he suggests that the hitman return home to his own daughter. Enraged, the hitman reveals that everything he told Carter, including having a daughter, was a lie that was meant to deceive him. Carter begs the hitman to spare their lives, explaining they've never seen his face. Now the killer starts threatening Carter's life and demanding Isabel to show up. Against Carter's warnings, Isabel confidently walks down the stairs, gripping the shotgun and pointing it straight at the man. Just then, the lights start to flicker and distract the hitman. That's when Carter leaps into action and seizes the opportunity. He charges the hitman with relentless force and repeatedly stabs him in the neck over and over until everything goes dark with a random discharge. While Mara heads out to call 911, Isabel stays put to confront the hitman. She confidently pulls the trigger on him, but nothing is discharged. Turns out Carter and Isabel have been counting on a dud all the time. Now the tables have been turned as the hitman raises his gun. Isabel puts on her Nike Courage sneakers and urges him to just do it. However, the killer refuses to do so and spares her, claiming he's not a monster and breathing his last. Isabel then walks up to Carter and sees that he's still alive, showing a smile we haven't seen before. No camera, no sign of anxiety on her face. She thanks him for saving her. Carter says he just returned the favor, making it clear that if it had not been for Isabel, he would have committed suicide. The movie was trying to show that Isabel filled the void of Carter's late kid, and she accepted him as her dad by taking off the camera. Did you like our movie recap? Subscribe and comment if you like our video. See you next time.